Hey everyone, so in today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you all my eyeshadow palette collection as well as doing a bit of a declutter. Now, if you guys aren't familiar with my declutters, I always give you guys speed reviews of all the products I'm talking about, so I'm really excited about today's video. Excited to share with you guys like my old faithful eyeshadow palettes, ones that are newer to my collection, and then also ones that I think you guys should definitely not purchase. Without further ado, let us begin. Now, a big reason I wanted to do this declutter today is that I am just finding myself reaching for palettes like this from Surat a lot more than I'm reaching for some of my larger palettes. Quads have been feeling really fun for me to use and also really easy for me to use. They're just quite utilitarian in a lot of ways. I have a full look in here if I want something more dramatic. I can do a very basic, almost more matte look. I mean, these are more satin shades, but I can get a very structured look with them. This shade is perfect as like a one and done. Super beautiful. You see how it has this really pretty kind of creamy, satiny finish to it. This kind of eyeshadow tends to look really good on more mature eyelids or if you have more dry skin like I do. These eyeshadows are exceptional quality. They just are very smoothing, really easy to blend, beginner friendly. I love this beige shade as well, slightly more yellow, but I just find it's a really pretty crease shade on me. It really looks very natural, like a very natural kind of definition. And then this shade up here is kind of like this dark red brown. As a whole, I just love the color story. I love how these perform. Now, I do have a discount code with Surat, but this palette is like notoriously always sold out, so I'm not even sure if you can get it right now, but I'm leaving links down below to everything I'm talking about. Hopefully it's back in stock. I'm just not sure at this time. However, I have to say that this is definitely like top 5 eyeshadow palette for me within that realm. I'm almost always reaching for this, and when that happens, I tend to forget about some of my other palettes, which means they just need new homes. You know, I can feel my preferences kind of changing. This kind of change has been happening, I think, over the past, I'm gonna say like 2 years. I'm not reaching for and buying really large palettes as much anymore. And if I am, it's because they have something really special about them. And I'll get into some of those that I still love and I'm using a ton. But this kind of everyday palette is just very appealing to me. So this is absolutely staying in my collection. And again, it's the Beyond Beige palette. Now, this is a palette that I thought I already decluttered. And then yet it's still somehow here. It's from Huda Beauty. It was their play on a cream eyeshadow palette. This is the neutral brown creamy Obsessions. These just do not perform on the eyes. They don't last. They don't really want to stick to the eyes for whatever reason. I just think that Huda Beauty is trying to do something different with these formulas. They understand that, like, I don't know, if I were to come out with eyeshadow palettes, I feel like I would want to do something cream based. And you can see that, I mean, they swatch really beautifully. And I think that's kind of the tough part is, you know, you would see this in person, give it a couple swatches in Sephora, and then you think it's going to perform, and it's just so true that swatches don't tell the whole story. I mean, the Surat swatches weren't like mind-blowingly beautiful or anything like that. For me, you know, it's all about performance, obviously. It's just something about them. They don't really want to build on the eyes. Something is missing. Also, this shade right here, it's like a very flecked kind of glitter that turns almost chunky looking. And just flaky. It's not very flattering necessarily, which, I mean, you know, sometimes you just want something very grungy and chunky and loose. And if you want glitters like that, I don't think that that's a bad one, but there are others that I prefer to that one if I'm going for that look. I just think that this palette is it's just not for me. So I am going to go ahead and pass that along. It is unfortunate because I really had high hopes for this. I almost wish that they had gone the single eyeshadow route, which, again, part of the reason I'm doing this eyeshadow palette declutter is I'm kind of a single eyeshadow person. I use one and dones quite a lot. This one is unfortunate that it didn't just didn't check out for me. So this is a newer release from Natasha Denona. I was really excited about this launch. It's the mini eye sculpt palette. And the reason I really liked the idea of it is one, it's all mattes. It's very compact, and I just think that there's something really lovely about something all matte. This feels like a nice addition to someone that has a lot of like wet sparkly top coats like I do. If I want to just have something to add structure to a look, I can very easily take this out. I'm not paying for an entire giant palette of mattes. I just have like quote unquote the essentials. These are nice. I personally feel like there might be something slightly different about this versus the larger palettes. I don't know if that's actually true, but it does feel like there's a slight variance in the actual formulas. I feel like these are just a touch drier. They're not dry on the eyes, but they do feel just, I don't know, it does feel like a slightly less creamy formula. If you have this palette, let me know. I still use it. I still really enjoy it, but I'm just not sure if it's the exact same formula. I can't confirm or deny that it is or isn't. For me, texture is everything, like how something looks on the eyes, and I just find that this is slightly more likely to look more apparent on the eyes, not necessarily dry, but I find that some of my other Natasha Denona palettes don't necessarily do that. So, I'm liking this. I just don't know if it's like a holy grail kind of item for me. Take with that what you will. It is nice for travel, so I am going to keep it. I will say they pack the pigment though, because this is almost like staining the the poster board that I have down, so that's interesting. We've talked about kind of all matte palettes, and for me personally, it's just one that I want to reach for more. You can see it's clearly well loved. I love using these putties for a smoky liner. So I'll typically add the putties on the outside of my lids and then the corresponding powder shadow on top to kind of set it. I've done actually both ways. These formulas are really they're flexible, so you don't necessarily need to do it in one or the other order in order for it to work well. So this shade Chiseled, you can see I've done quite a bit of swatching in here because sometimes I just like throw this on my eye and I'm just like done. I really love these kind of beiges on me, so I find I am using this one a lot. I love the way that these wear, by the way. Because you have these corresponding shades, these just make for very nice long wear looks. But you can see there's really rich kind of pigment. I was hoping the Huda Beauty would be something a little bit closer to this, but it's just not. In general, I really enjoy them. I think especially the cream parts I'm using a lot. Sometimes I just want to use like some of these matte powders, throw them on the eyes, and if I'm doing an all matte look, there's a good chance I'm probably going to reach for this one. There's actually a part of me that has wanted for a while to just depot some of these into a smaller palette because you can very easily do that with this. You can see you can just take them right out. You can rearrange it to also make more sense for you. It's no wonder that Danessa did such a beautiful job with this. It's definitely my favorite Danessa product that she has released. So I couldn't recommend the Groundwork Defining Neutral palette more. I think it's absolutely a staple in my collection. Love this one. These couple of palettes from Dior I've had for quite a while. They're definitely not going. Sorry to, I guess, give you the spoiler now, but they're beautiful. I really use them quite a lot and really enjoy them. I think the reason these have kind of become a product that I use a lot and don't really want to part with, one that I keep recommending over and over again, they survive basically every declutter, is that you have a mix of one and dones in these palettes as well as defining shades. So you can see with both of these, I have a darker shade I can use as like a smoky liner. You have a very neutral shade that you can use as a one and done. There's a wet sparkly top coat, and then there's a more metallic one and done, and a satin shade in the middle. So both of these have a beautiful setup that is very intuitive to me. Also, the formulas are beautiful. So I'm going to give you a swatch of both of the metallics. So this is the metallic in, this is the New Look palette. So this metallic is, I mean, that is a crazy beautiful gunmetal metallic. Dior does metallics incredibly well. If you guys know, I've been obsessed with the shade Beige Mitza from Dior for a very long time. And, you know, this is giving Beige Mitza, this shade, except in this kind of cooler tone gunmetal vibe. Now, this shade over here is a slightly more, I'm going to say like, it's definitely like a lighter kind of version, more pink to it, but is absolutely beautiful. Just if I'm reaching for this palette, it's really difficult for me to not want to put on that shadow. And by the way, this is the Soft Cashmere palette. Now, Soft Cashmere also has this really gorgeous like satin shade in the middle. And I just find that these kinds of shades, these really soft satin shades, they will really look, they're just gonna look good on like no matter what your age is. So that's something that I think people don't talk about enough, is how certain powders perform on your eyelids when you're not like just 20 years old. You know what I mean? Like powders are powder. Like they need to be skin loving powders for me to really enjoy them. And I find that Dior doesn't want to skip on the eyes. They're very smooth and blendable. And also these mattes, I mean, look at that. They did not hold back the pigment when they gave you like this dark shade. And why would they? Because they know that you want something to kind of be able to get a really smoky effect if you want it. I think out of the two, I slightly prefer Soft Cashmere for every day, but I've talked about this before. Some of my favorite looks I've ever done are with the New Look palette. So I think from like an artistry standpoint, I like the New Look palette more. But for like more utilitarian looks, I prefer the Soft Cashmere. I love both. I think they're both absolutely beautiful. These 5-color palettes, I think that you don't really need much more than this in a lot of cases, just for everyday looks. So I really love both. They've been, you know, staples in my collection for a long time. I think they're also kind of underrated in like the mainstream palette market. I want to say, like, I don't hear a lot of people saying like, but have you tried the Dior eyeshadow palettes? Like, I feel like people don't really say that, but they're beautiful palettes. And they've really gotten very cozy in my makeup collection. Speaking of luxury palettes, so this is the Moonlit Seduction. So I definitely know that one of my friends would be absolutely overjoyed to have this. So I am going to pass this along. But I think what happened, so I have two other palettes from Pat McGrath. The Divine Rose is one of them. That's one of my absolute favorites. I also have the other one. The name is like slipping my mind right now, but I really love that one too. So I don't know if I've ever talked about this, but typically what I do during like decluttering is I will make some bags for friends, some bags for like shelters. What happened, I think, the last time I did a big like party, like makeup party where I gave everything away, is I put a couple of my Pat McGrath palettes into the wrong box. This is what I thought had happened for a while. So I was holding on to this because it was the last Pat McGrath palette that I had, when this is the one that I wanted to pass along. Well, in the process of moving, I found those palettes again. They were just like sitting in a random box with like no other makeup in it. So this can now go. Like, I wanted a reference point to Pat McGrath formulas to be able to compare and contrast. Now that I know that I have those palettes, this one can be passed along. So I'm going to go ahead and pass this one. A very long-winded way of saying this is going. But the reason is that these special shades, they change the formula. within the Moonlit Seduction. They're not like that dry, baked, wet glossy effect anymore. I will say, like, I love this shade and I do love these mattes. But I think it would be nice for someone to be able to have the whole collective story rather than me like depotting this. Pat McGrath is going to be the creative director of Louis Vuitton makeup. I'm almost positive I just saw that. She also just released a new palette, and people have, you know, wishy-washy views on that. For a long time, people have been wanting something different from Pat McGrath, and it's starting to, I think people are starting to realize why things felt a little stale. It could be because she's just moving on to Louis Vuitton. But who's to say? Either way, this is going. And I'll always love my Divine Rose palette from Pat McGrath. Shall we talk a little K-Beauty? So these are my palettes from Clio. Now, I have really enjoyed Soft Depth palette just because you can see here, it goes the darkest. This has these really rich shades here, and I find that I just really like to have that option to do, again, like a smoky wing. This is kind of like my signature thing. I also like that there are shimmers in here. I find the shimmers to be very pretty, and I'll say this, I've had mixed results with K-Beauty eyeshadow palettes. There are actually quite a few here that I'm not a huge fan of, and I'd love to hear your feedback on how you want to see me do a video on like my entire K-Beauty palette collection, like what would be the most helpful. But what I will say is that I have really, really enjoyed this palette. Some of the shades I'm not reaching for a lot, like this kind of area doesn't really get used much, but these shades get used quite a lot. And I really love the even pigmentation. Even this shade is very pretty. So I am a fan of the Clio Soft Depth palette. That one is going to stay. I will say though that I'm not really reaching for this one, this kind of pinkier one. It's the Lavender Staff palette from Clio. I will say though right away that if you have not tried any of these Clio palettes, they have one of the best matte formulas you're going to find in K-Beauty eyeshadow palettes, period. They are so soft and blendable. They kind of blend themselves out. Very skin loving, very blurring, just really, really pretty. But this color story I'm just not wearing a lot. It kind of washes me out. So I am going to give this one away. These though, because what happened is that these are both the Nude Balance palette, and somehow I had tried both like separately and didn't realize that like Clio had sent me both, or I bought one and something had happened. I'm not sure which one is newer, but this one looks more used. So I'm going to keep this one and then I'm going to give this one away. But I will say, this is just, again, the matte formula is exceptional. I mean, I'll just give you guys a look here. They're very, very creamy. They're very soft on the brush. They just don't want to pick up on dry spots. They're almost kind of like, think of a finishing powder kind of formula. They're definitely in that realm. Really good if you enjoy very no makeup kind of eyeshadow looks, because you can see this doesn't, like the depth of this isn't really intense. There isn't a ton of contrast here. So I would say really nice for like low contrast folks, really pretty for everyday, like very no makeup kind of looks. I slightly prefer this one because I get more depth, but both of them are very beautiful. So I'll give you guys, though, a little preview of some K-Beauty eyeshadow palettes that have not really impressed me so much. This one from 3CE, the Overtake palette, it's a weird one because the color story is so pretty. Why can't I open this right now? And I love these kind of sequin shades, but it's just unfortunate. Some of the sparkles just don't want to come together. I would love to hear who you think makes the best sequin shadows, because really, I mean, that's really, really pretty. I feel like a lot of sequin shadows, you don't get the sparkle throughout, like they kind of vanish when you blend. This one, just something about it kind of went lackluster for me. Similar thing with the Unleashia palette. I just don't think that this kind of formula is for me. Same thing with the Heemish. like you can see they have these chunkier pressed glitters. So this kind of glitter, like with the big pieces, very popular in Korea, especially for like around the inner corner on the bottom lash. It's very pretty. It's just not for me. And all of these shades are just kind of like just a little frosty. The color story is not great. Sorry. This is the Color Berry one from Hemish. I know a lot of people really enjoy these. I think if you have a similar taste to me, you might not like them. And then with these, it was kind of a similar thing. There's like a nice kind of smoothness to the one from Unleashia, and I have had really good luck in general with Unleashia palettes, or I'm sorry, with their products. So I don't think it's like a quality kind of issue here. I think it's like a preference issue. I think the Unleashia, I would, if this is something that you're into, I would be more likely to recommend the Unleashia palettes than the Hemish from where I am right now. But let me know if you guys want to see like a big video on like all the K-Beauty eyeshadow palettes that I've tried, the ones that I like, the ones that I don't. I feel like an all-inclusive video like that could be really helpful. I've talked about doing this before, but K-Beauty is kind of hard. Some of my dedicated K-Beauty videos, I love doing them, but it feels like people don't really click on them. So it is one of those things that like I always have to try and think about. While we're talking about K-Beauty, the Decay palettes, I have tried 3 here. Again, varying success. This Autumn Breeze palette, it's very neutral. You can see it's like a mixture between one of the Clio shadow palettes, like these very like soft, low contrast mattes. And then, but the sparkles in here are there's more of them, and they're more of the kind of sparkle that I enjoy. Like it's that very fine glitter that looks slightly more wet and glistening, but it's still relatively everyday. It's not like a super, super impactful wet glitter. I have been having more luck with Decay, and I really enjoy them. I will say though that I have some Chinese eyeshadow palettes that I love even more. But I think that Decay is onto something. Actually, this palette has some pretty rich pigment. The chocolate fudge palette, you're getting a lot more pigment than you would typically in some of these K-Beauty palettes. Because in general, I've just found that K-Beauty tends to lean for more of these like softer pigments rather than really, really intense pigment like a lot of, Western brands do. I will say though that these shimmers, you can see they're bigger and they're just a little bit chunkier than the other palettes. So that's something that I'm not like as much of a fan of. So, I think they tried to give more impact with this one. They gave impact in the way that I wanted in the mattes, but then the shimmers, I think I wanted still to be a little bit more subtle. Start thinking about how to do a video like this where I'm talking about these K-Beauty palettes. A couple more, we have the Mood Keyboard and the Romand palette. This is the Dusty Fog Garden palette. It's just, if I'm reaching for a palette like this with all of these kind of very soft mattes within a very similar, like a lot of these are in a similar depth, I'm reaching for Clio. I have wondered in general about this palette. I've wondered if I need to give another Romand palette a try, and I wonder if this is just not treating me well because I'm really not enjoying the colors. I don't know. I wanted it because it was cool toned, and then I got it and something just was not clicking for me. Not really seeing that much wrong with the formula. A lot of these are, you guys, on a lot of like, are you seeing much of a difference here? It feels like such a waste to me. I don't think I'll ever be able to recommend this palette in specific, but it does have me curious if I need to try another specific palette from Roman that might just give me what I'm looking for, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And who knows what I'm even looking for. But the Lily by Red Mood Keyboard, this feels closer to Clio to me. Everything about these textures to me feel closer to Clio level. The smoothness, the ease of use. I feel like Lily by Red might be kind of underrated as far as the eyeshadows go because I don't know, I hear a lot of people talking about like the Decay eyeshadow palettes, but these mattes just feel a little bit higher quality to me. They just feel softer, smoother. As someone that like really prioritizes that, I don't know, that is very important to me. Also, I mean, this kind of sparkle, really glistening and wet looking. So, that's kind of a hit or miss thing with some of the Decay palettes. I think Lily by Red is onto something. I think jury's still out a little bit on the Roman palettes. Decay is hit or miss, and then these three other ones I think were just not treating me well. So that's like a quick overview, but I can definitely, you guys, let me know if you want some more in-depth looks at these. I'm wondering if any of you guys have tried the Read My Mind palette from Nabla, because I really like the setup, the way it's kind of all of these different quads. I haven't tried it yet, so I remember I swatched this color right here and I really, really liked it. I'm gonna give it a quick swatch. Oh my god, look at that. I mean, that's very similar to something like Lithium from the Moondust line. Oh, that looks so, so pretty. It has almost a similar texture to like the original Space Cowboy shade, like that little bit of plush or like creaminess in the finger. And I also will say here that like I don't think these shades are going to have that kind of texture. I imagine that this one will. That texture is also very reminiscent of the Natasha Denona Chroma Crystal top coats, which were one of my favorite products basically ever. They were discontinued. If you're a fan of those, this is a very similar texture. Let me know if you guys think, like, if you would be interested in thoughts on this one, because, I am clearly interested, but I don't know if it's enough for me to get a ton of use out of, so it could be a good idea to declutter it. But then again, I'm looking at some of these mattes and they're really very well put together kind of palette. Like definitely feels more unique than what I've seen in a while. A lot of variety in here. For now, I'll keep it, but if you guys don't seem so interested in it, then I might just pass it along. So Vive sent me this Soul Shadows palette. I mean, honestly, all things considered, I'm swatching that formula. It's kind of reminding me a little bit of Surratt, but I know me, I'm not going to really use that shade much. Like these gold shades I don't reach for. That's gorgeous. I mean, we all know how much I love a taupey brown, but this shade isn't going dark enough, I think, for like a smoky winged liner. So I'll say this, if they replace this with a dark black or a dark brown, I would probably use this literally all of the time. Like I think kind of to pieces because I'm swatching these mattes. I mean, that formula looks really, really pretty. I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence about this one, you guys. So maybe you guys let me know. Swatches don't tell the whole story, so that's why I'm kind of like hesitant. Maybe I'll try it once. If I don't like it, I can give it to a friend. So I think that this palette from Tom Ford is going to go. This is the nude dip. I know everyone loves it. Why is this wet? I feel like the Tom Ford nude dip palette was always that product that everyone loved, but I just couldn't, for some reason, it never clicked for me. I think they're just a bit too frosty. There's something about the frostiness on my eyes that just doesn't look good, or it's just not my finish that I prefer. So I am going to declutter it. I am going to keep though the Smoky Quartz palette from Tom Ford. I really enjoy this one. This texture is what I think maybe Huda Beauty, I feel like Huda Beauty was trying to get to this kind of texture, but Tom Ford did it just a little bit better. These are smoother, but they still have that really thin kind of texture that the Huda Beauty has. It's kind of like cream to powder. Really, really love these. I love the way that they blend. I do wish though that they lasted a little bit longer. And, you know, ironically, I feel like that was kind of an issue with the Huda Beauty palette as well. I think these last longer than that one, and the effect is creamier and smoother on the eyes. But yeah, I don't know if longevity, like this isn't going to last 10 hours. The quality that it gives the eyes, that really smooth, creamy kind of effect, these do that very well. So I am going to keep this one, but the nude dip is going to get passed along. Let's talk about the Sigma Cool Neutrals palette. Sigma, I think, actually has a really beautiful formula. The mattes, I think, is where this brand sings, and then occasionally they'll come out with a palette like this, and there's one shade where I'm like, wait a second, why are you not coming out with this kind of shade more? And it's this shade, the shade Polished. This is that beautiful moon dust quality that people are looking for, but they're not coming out with an entire palette of shades in that vein. So they have two of them in this palette. You know, mixed with a little bit of this, I feel like these two, I'm just going to do it. These two mixed together, like that is giving like Chanel New Moon kind of vibe. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that shadow, but it's a favorite of mine. It's been discontinued. But I think that as a whole, I haven't been getting as much use out of this as I've wanted to. So I think I need to try and get more use out of it, or I just need to pass it along. Part of that reason is it's really hard to compete, in my opinion, with the Sigma Ritzy palette. My favorite Sigma palette that I've tried, this shade Gold Rush, I'll put it right under the other ones. It's in that same like pressed wet glitter formula. I can use this all over the eyes. I have this darker shade for a liner. I have one of these like more yellow tone mustardy shades, which I think adds a really nice pop and just like a different in the look, like as a whole, just adds a little bit of that nuance. You can use it very lightly. I find myself reaching for this one a little bit more, but I will say giving these to a swatch, I might need to just pull this back out and start getting some more use out of it because Sigma mattes are gorgeous. So I think I'm going to hold on to that for now, definitely keeping the Ritzy palette. Now, as far as the Natasha Denona palettes go, these are the two that I have. I actually already decluttered the I Need a Warm palette. I just gave it away. Someone else can get more use out of it. I think that these are the ones that I'm reaching for. And if I'm being completely honest with myself, at this point, I'm really only using the I Need a Noob palette. And I'm using this one a lot, and I absolutely love it. I think it's one of the best products that she's released. This is beautiful, but like one of my favorite shades popped out and then exploded everywhere. So that was really annoying. This shade is gorgeous and I love the mattes, but I do feel like someone will be able to get more of a complete usage out of all of these shades. So it kind of pains me to do this, but I am going to give it away. I think it's the right thing to do. And you know, at the end of the day, God, it is such a bummer when these shatter. It's happened to like both of these palettes. I love this shade Mia, the one that I'm trying to press back in here. I will put a little piece of paper towel on that when I close it back up because I find that helps. But this is one of the best palettes that I've ever used. It's one of my favorites. All the shade, like if you are into wet, glossy sparkle with beautiful soft mattes, this is it. This is the pinnacle of that kind of product. You know, for me, it was not even a question if this was going to be better than the Makeup by Mario palette. Like, this is absolutely better than that palette. Now, the Delia shade is one that, I mean, Do you see how like lightly wet but also translucent that is? These kinds of shades tend to just look like really, they're sparkly enough that they're fun, but they also have this beautiful, almost like glossy, wet skin effect once they're on the eyes that I live for. I love, and I almost similar to like the New Look palette from Dior. Like that palette kind of gives a pretty wet smoky effect as well. This shade, what is it, filigree I believe, this one is for more intense looks. Ella is also like, basically she's giving you all of these, hold on, I'll show you guys. It's really, really cool. She's giving you brown tones with 3 distinct finishes and textures so that no matter what kind you're looking for, you have an option. And if you are like a lover of wet taupey browns, this is like your dream. You know what I mean? So you can see you have one with a little bit more gold, like a true gold reflect. The shade Filigree is way more creamy in the base pigment, so you can go like very smoky. And then that shade Delilah has that beautiful translucence. So you can really just get so much freaking dimension with these. Still a palette that I reach for. It has stood the test of time, you know, with how quickly things release and release and release. This to me is a palette that will stand the test of time in my collection, already has. I think Natasha Denona also came out with a new palette. It's probably not something that I'm going to check out. I have that palette. I don't think that there could be a palette better. So unless I get like an overwhelming response to try something, I'm not going to pick it up, is what I'm trying to say. Let's talk about some Anastasia Beverly Hills palettes. I've had both of these for quite a while. I think that the quality of Anastasia Beverly Hills eyeshadows is very, very good. I really love this palette. I love this shade Hope and this shade Belle. They're very, very pretty, especially for like a lover of these like wet green shades. It's just really, really divine. Not only that though, I think this shade Lily right here also gives you a beautiful complement to them. You can see they're a little bit more like powdery. They have a lot of pigment and a lot of kickback. But I love the kind of color story of this. It feels really pretty for the springtime. I really do enjoy this one. But I will say that the Rose Metals palette, you know, it does have a kind of a similar thing going on. I think that I don't know if I should have bought both. I am happy to have both, but I think looking back, I probably should have just, you know, chosen between the two. The Rose Metals palette, I have the shade Haze in here, which is arguably just as pretty as these two shades. Now this shade, I'm not as crazy about. This is like the Heavenly shade that's supposed to be like the wet kind of topper shade within the palette. I do think I like Lily more in the other palette. Shades like this, Ashes from the Rose Metals palette. I mean, look at that. There's such a gorgeous kind of smoothness to that, the way that one goes onto the eyes. And then the shade Sunrose is also really pretty, especially on like green eyes, which I do have green eyes. I don't know, I'm not sure where to go from here with these two palettes. If I should make my own palette with the two, or if I should just pick one. But I think one needs to go in some sort of capacity. So let's discuss in the comments, or I would love to hear your feedback in the comments. So a couple of things. I just went to take off those swatches. By the way, I've been using the Dead Cool hand wash on repeat. It was literally just at my sink. It's so gross. It does not dry the heck out of your hand. I've washed my hands probably like 4 times since this video started, and the fact that my hands are not on fire says a lot. Also, it smells delicious. I got the extra milk scent. That is just one of my favorites. I wanted to mention that, but 2, the way that these sparkles from these palettes, the way they shine in the light, this is like, I thought this was going to be hard, and then I looked at how the sparkles look in natural light because I haven't used these in a while, and I was like, no, this is going to be so difficult. So I think I'm going to have to put both of these on, do like a look for each, and then make some decisions from there, because both, I was so pleased with the way both of these look. I think that's probably why I bought both, because I just couldn't freaking decide. But this spice palette from Anastasia is pretty, but it's also like barely used. I think I've used like these two wet looking shades and they're pretty. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love a wet glitter. They're very soft. They have nice color, but someone else can get more use out of these. I will say, I think, like, look at that. That's very, really silky. I know that someone else can get more use out of this palette. So I'm gonna go ahead and declutter this one. Okay, we gotta talk about Flower Nose, you guys. I have tried a lot of Asian eyeshadows, as you can see with like the K-Beauty ones that I tried. This is very luxurious. Just some of the absolute best that I have ever tried. This is a new palette to me, the Little Angels palette from Flower Nose. I mean, it reminds me a lot of what Pat McGrath used to be. I'm trying to figure out where to swatch these. So the shimmers are incredibly wet. They have three very distinct, like, actual colors. So it doesn't feel like they're just three of the same sparkle. The actual mattes, so beautifully rich. They have that gorgeous smoothness that you're looking for when you want to do a very everyday look. They're just going to kind of blend on their own, and yet they have enough pigment that you're able to get like a richness from them in this kind of very neutral color story, with also a very pigmented, more liner shade. I think this has everything that I've ever wanted out of an eyeshadow palette, really. I mean, in this kind of color story, you have a similar taste to me. You like wet glitters, you like a very smooth, silky kind of matte. You're going to enjoy this. If you're a fan of like Natasha Denona, I Need a Nude, this is incredibly similar. Something like the Jinbai and Rose palette from Pat McGrath. This is very similar. It's just in that vein. It's in that world. I honestly have felt the same about this palette from Flower Nose. It's the Mermaid, the Moonlit Mermaid palette in the shade 01. I love this palette. I'm not sure if they make it anymore. I just really enjoyed how you have like everything for an everyday little look right here, all matte, and then you have a couple of these sparkles handy just to get like more of that wet effect right on top. I really love this one. I think it's incredibly classic to my signature look. You know, that smoky wing, the wet glitter right on top, a little bit of a yellow tone crease shade. Like, this has everything that I want. It is a bummer though, because if people can't get it, then I can't really like talk about it and use it a lot, because, you know, you guys aren't going to be able to try it. So it is a bummer. I'm going to try and find this one because I think that this is really good if you just want to try Flower Nose for the first time. But I will say, now that I have this palette from Flower Nose, I feel, even though this is bigger, this one's definitely going to be better for like travel. But I mean, you guys, if you look at all these palettes, these are not like traveling palettes, right? Like, these are more like display palettes, if anything. But I will say, I love the shimmers in here even more than I did the Mermaid palette. They're so soft, so wet looking, and they're just not dry either. You know, sometimes I don't mind a really dry glitter, honestly, but I do think that a formula like this is so balanced. It has enough smoothness and enough glide that some of these other wet glitters just don't have. So if you're into that kind of glide from your glitter, I think you'll really enjoy this palette. Again, now that I have this one and I have the Mermaid, I think I'm probably going to be reaching for this one even more. Eden's Angel palette, by the way. And then lastly, I have this one, which this is the Cloud Collar, I believe, Butterfly Cloud Collar collection. And this is the Incense Purple Haze. I just talked about this palette, but it's really romantic. The color story, the more that I've taken a look at it, the color story is not so far off from the little Angel palette. This is slightly more purple. I don't think that you need both though. I think that these shimmers are a little bit different. They're not like as wet looking. They're more of these like soft, kind of glossy looking satins, which I have a feeling some people might prefer because they're more subtle. Like when you mix those two together, you see how it has like this very soft kind of glossy look that doesn't even necessarily look like gloss, and it doesn't necessarily look like a lot of glitter either. It's just, I feel like it reminds me of like a very high fashion kind of thing. Really pretty to get like a glossy lid look without it being a sparkle driven look. So anyway, that was a really long-winded way of saying I also really, really like this one. I think the mattes are gorgeous. I love this kind of purple tone thing going on. It's very pretty for spring. It's very romantic. I'm not sure you need both. You know what I mean? So like I would go with whatever color palette you like more. If you really, really want wet, wet, wet glitter, I would go with the Little Angel. But if you want something a little bit more subdued, you're really into very soft mattes, I don't think that you could go wrong with this one. It is also smaller. So you can see the Little Angel is the largest. Then we have the Cloud Collar, and then the Mermaid is the smallest out of those. But yeah, I really love all three of them. The fact that I've tried 3 palettes from this brand, never seeing any of them in person, and I've enjoyed all 3, I think says a lot. I'm really into this brand. I think they're coming out with a really exceptional makeup. I really haven't tried a product from them that I haven't liked. So I think that kind of says a lot at this point. Now this little Revlon palette is going to go, it's probably expired by now. It's the Revlon Illuminance Cream Shadow Palette. I think that we've just graduated from this kind of formula. They don't want to last as long on the eyes, and there are other cream shadow formulas that I'm reaching for way more. But I think back in the day, especially at the drugstore, this was like one of the best palettes that you could find. This definitely like brings back memories for me for sure. And I think I used to have one of the other color stories of this that I would often compare to the Rowan palettes. I mean, I have 2 Rowan palettes here. And so my Rowan palette, it was this one that I used to compare to one of the other color stories. Just gonna tell you guys right now that like these are completely different formulas. You know, I think one of the biggest makeup bummers that I've ever really had were when Nikki left Rowan. That was like her baby, and then she left Rowan. You could just really see that. Rowan, I don't know, all the palettes after her palette were just not as great. 1111 was like one of my favorite eyeshadow palettes kind of ever. Same thing with the 52 degree palette. You know, these are my original ones, so I'm just not sure if the new ones formulas have changed or not. The formulas themselves are really creamy, just give this really glossy kind of effect. I am wondering if these are around the expiry date, so it is something I'm gonna have to watch. But for now, these are going to stay, and then the Revlon is going to go. Okay, so this Rabanne palette, the Unnatural World palette, it shattered on me, so that's why I have this in there. And it's just kind of a bummer. I have been finding myself not wanting to reach for this as much because it's just so mangled. But I think that there's something to these eyeshadows. The texture of them, though delicate, you can even see it in the pan. How they have this really gorgeous satin effect. They're almost creamy to the touch, and the pigmentation is really skin loving, which I think in general makes for a really lovely experience if you have dry eyelids, if you have maybe more mature eyelids. The colors are beautiful. This is actually a gloss, like a colored gloss, which is maybe a little bit, you know, maybe not the most like everyday, but this sparkle is also so soft and beautiful. It that didn't really look like much of anything. You can kind of see it a little bit more on the finger, but really, really pretty. I do really enjoy the palette, and these shadows, even though they're mangled and I haven't been using them as much, I think probably because of that, they are very, very special. I hope that more brands come out with formulas like that, or that Rabanne even comes out with a full matte palette with that texture, because I think it would like sell like hotcakes. Now, my Lisa Eldridge Vega palette, I haven't used this in a while. I think it's because it's very similar to the New Look palette from Dior is what I'm putting together right now. So let me pull that one out. So are you seeing the similarities here? Really like tonally similar. I will say that the Vega shimmers are really gorgeous. They just have, you see how they're like that soft shimmering formula that we were talking about when we talked about the Dior. These I think are slightly thinner, but they're still very creamy. You know, this is the only Lisa Eldridge eyeshadow palette that I have. I think typically I would say like there's no need to keep both of these, but as a reference point for her formula, I think it's important that I keep this. I really think that there's something to be said about these satin formulas that she's come out with, because you get two in here, whereas like this is the equivalent satin formula in the Dior and you only get one in the New Look. And this this eyeshadow isn't quite a satin. So this is the Dior eyeshadow that you would kind of use similar to this shadow in the Vega palette. So they're like, you can see you get less payoff with the one from Lisa Eldridge, but this is going to be really nice for like every day. You know, sometimes you want to be able to build up that pigment, but I think for pigment lovers that you might be better off going Dior. But maybe for like softly doing some eyeshadow looks with these satins and then the wet glitters on top, you might be better off going Lisa Eldridge. For me personally, I found myself reaching for the Dior a little bit more often than the Lisa Eldridge. I will say Lisa Eldridge wins on packaging every time because it's just so beautifully luxe. I'm kind of interested in the new Betty palette. The Betty palette looks absolutely beautiful. Like the shimmers just look delightful. Really nice for spring. I have been thinking about that palette, but between these two, I think the New Look wins it for me. So let's talk Florisis. So I have a few different palettes from them. Some of their larger ones that look like this with like the magnetized closure, really pretty. It's kind of like that fan style. Really love that. But then I have these larger kind of like, they almost look like resin. Now, Florisis is really pretty, actually, if you enjoy kind of those shades I was talking about from the Lisa Eldridge palette, those like smooth, satiny kind of shades. These are similar to that, but maybe like slightly more pigmented. They also have really pretty like glitters. I don't know. I kind of go back and forth. I feel like I don't need both of these because there are so many different overlapping shades. This is the gold brown palette. I mean, glitters like that really clearly call to me. We know this about me now. But I do think probably I'm going to reach for this one more. I mean, it's just more neutral. So I think I'm going to keep this one. Oh my gosh, I do love like tonally those three shades together. They're just so similar that I just don't think I need, I don't think I need both. So I'm going to keep the, which one is this? This is the Feng Huang Makeup Relief palette. So I'm going to keep this one. And then this is, I think, my favorite, which is the Soaring Sunlight palette. The glitters are insane. This feels kind of like the Chinese equivalent to Pat McGrath in a lot of ways as well. Like these glitter, I'll show you the purple one. The purple one like is kind of a hidden gem in this palette. It is so divine and wet looking. And then this green, like you see how whimsical and magical the shades are, and they really perform and look that way when you actually have them on the eyes. And I just love these neutral shades. Like the mattes themselves are really blendable and easy to work with. So I think I'm going to keep, again, this one, which is the Soaring Sunlight, and then the Fang Wang Makeup Relief palette. So I'm going to keep these two. I'm going to go ahead and declutter the gold brown. And then let's take a look at these palettes. You know, I think that this one was limited edition, which is a bummer. I mean, I love that glitter in this palette. And this blue, oh my God. It's like blue, purple, wet, divine. It's really, really pretty. Limited edition. I don't think that you can get it. Anyway, I think it goes on that way. But I think I'm going to go ahead and declutter this one because you can't get it anymore. So I don't need to keep this one for that. And then I think I'm going to keep this one, which I don't know which palette this is. I'm leaving links down below to everything. It doesn't say it on here though. Maybe it's the Jing Hong palette, the number 2 palette. This one has, you know what? Now that I'm looking at it, it's so similar to the other palette that I have. Like we're in the same world, you know what I mean? I don't think I need to keep all of these now that I'm thinking about it. And honestly, it makes me kind of want to keep the limited edition palette because this has like those unique shades. I'm going to keep this one and probably no one's going to know that I have it. But I just have a lot of these shades already in the other palettes that I have. I mean that, oh my God. I gotta say, I love, you guys know how I feel about those like mustardy brown shades. They just are stunning. And that like gold, brown gold, so pretty. And what is that? What is this shade? Oh my God. There, okay. Here's the thing. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to declutter this palette. It has a lot of repeats. I'm already using these ones more. And then I'm going to keep this one because it's just very unique. And I will say, I really loved the e.l.f. Cookies and Dream palette. This has like a similar tonal thing to this one. I think this would be more fun to have. So I'm going to declutter the e.l.f. Cookies and Dream palette as well. Keep this one. All right, I feel better about this, but these two are going to go. I'm also going to declutter this Physicians Formula palette, the Butter Believe It one. You know, I actually think that these shimmers aren't half bad. I want a little bit more than half bad at this point. Like, I have a lot that I really love, and I'm just a little lackluster on these. So I think I'm going to pass this along. You know, I don't know what's going on with Lorac, but this is still one of my favorite palettes ever. If you are into a variety of metallics, of wet shimmers, of gorgeous mattes, this is like one of the best formulas that you can get at this price point. It has been in Best of Beauty like multiple years, I'm pretty sure. This shade is one of my favorites ever. I mean, look at that. It's like the perfect wet taupey, like slightly pink shade. Oh, it's just, it's so good. The mattes are incredibly pigmented. If you like more of a pigmented matte, you'll definitely be a fan. But you also have like these really stunning, like impactful glitters. If you, or I'm sorry, metallics, if you prefer something more metallic, you just get a variety of textures. You see how you get like some of these thinner wet glitters like this that like go a little bit translucent. That helps you build up a different kind of dimension within like various looks. That shade, oh, so good. And then you have like more rich shades with that creamier pigment. When brands do that, it really shows me that they want you to be able to get a range of looks and that they really know, like it's true artistry in my opinion. Giving you that range and that variety makes for a more usable and more like inspiring palette to me. I just love it so much. It's gorgeous and I highly recommend it. I know for a fact that this Mystic Oak, why can't I say oak? This palette is definitely discontinued, which is a bummer. It was always one of my favorite affordable palettes to recommend to you guys. I don't understand why they don't make it anymore. I'm going to keep this one and declutter the Mystic Oak now. This little palette from Girl Cult is small but mighty. The mattes are like, they've got richness, they've got pigment to them. And this shade over here is like incredible, incredible glitter. I think if you are interested in any of these shades, if any of these call to you, just know this formula is beautiful. And Girl Cult is like absolutely on my radar as a brand to watch from these shadows. These are incredible, incredible quality. Just as good quality as like the Flower Nose palettes that I was talking to you guys about. I just have less reference point or like less information to go off of. So like I've loved these 4 shades in here, but I haven't tried some of the other products. They like, this is a very wet glitter, but it's also more metallic. It's not as like glossy, wet, thin. So, you know, my heart still, I think, as like best of the best is with Flower Nose, but these are gorgeous, and I'm using them and really enjoying that like that smoothness they have on the eyes and the blendability. So, and they're always like, I think they're relatively inexpensive. This is the it says the 55 palette. I think it's the Dragon palette, but I'm gonna leave a link down below to it. The Moon Dust palette from Red and Decay. I believe this was limited edition. They have like Star Cowgirl and Cosmic Space Dust. Like you can't get these in any other palette, but they also have Wild Dipper, Rides Again, and Space Cowboy, which I believe you can get in other palettes. Though I think this formula is slightly different, I still really enjoy it. I hope that Urban Decay leans into this formula and these kinds of products more. I wish this was in a quad and it wasn't as long. And I wish that they put some mattes in here. Rather than doing that big star palette they came out with, I would have loved a quad with like a couple of wet glitters and then a couple of shades for definition. I will be honest though, I'm reaching for my singles more than this. I'm reaching for like my Moon Dust singles more than I am this palette. So maybe I'll give it away. It's hard because it's like, it's beautiful. I love the formulas, but yeah, I think someone else will get more use out of it because I'm using those singles so much that this is getting forgotten about. So I'm gonna go ahead and pass this along. Okay, let me show you guys the palettes that I decluttered today. Okay, I feel pretty good about this. These palettes are going to go, and let me show you guys the ones that I'm keeping. All right, now this is what I am keeping. Definitely leave me a comment down below if you guys enjoyed the video. I'll leave some of my other declutters that I've done in the past down below. Thank you guys as always for being here, and I will see you in my next one.